I found a lipstick stain on his coffee mug. It wasn't mine. I don't wear coral. I haven't since college. And no, it wasn't from a guest. No brunch, no party, no girls' night. Just me, him, and my sister. I stared at that stain longer than I should have. Not because I was angry, but because something about it felt lazy. Like someone forgot to clean up the lie. If you're going to betray me, at least have the decency to rinse the mug. That morning, Leah left for her Pilates class. Adam was still asleep. I stood there, mug in hand, watching the lipstick bleed into the soap water. It smelled like espresso and guilt. And still, I rinsed it, dried it, put it back like nothing happened. Why? Because I wasn't ready to admit what I already knew. I've never liked confrontation. It feels like shouting into a void. I prefer silence. Silence reveals more than any answer. So, I didn't ask. I didn't accuse. I didn't cry. I watched. I watched how Adam's eyes followed Leah when she entered the room. How his smile stayed longer than it used to. How he laughed louder. How he offered to help with her resume. And how he remembered she liked mint in her tea while forgetting I hated cilantro. Always hated it. 3 years together and he still put it in the salsa. Leah used to sleep over once a month, then once a week, then every other day. One day, her things just stayed. A drawer, a toothbrush, her shampoo in our shower. She always had a reason. It's closer to work. My heater broke. Adam said it's fine. Of course he did. And I didn't push back, didn't question, didn't cry. Instead, I smiled. I played along, like a good wife, like a loyal sister. But inside, I took notes, I observed, I became the quiet mirror they forgot was still hanging on the wall. Let's see how far they'll go when they think I'm not watching. Maybe I wasn't the one being fooled. Maybe I was the one setting the rules. I stopped asking myself why. Why he looked at her. Why she stayed longer each time. Why I let it continue. Instead, I asked how. How far would they go? How much would they hide if they believed I was too blind to notice? That's when I started building the trap. Not a dramatic one, not a movie scene, no voice recordings, no cameras, just space and silence and freedom. I stopped asking Leah to text when she'd be late. I started working late more often myself. I bought wine I knew she liked. I suggested she take my side of the bed when Adam complained about his back. She looked guilty. He didn't. And I smiled. One night, I left my phone unlocked on the counter, displaying an open browser tab, top 10 signs your spouse is cheating. I waited. The next morning, that tab was gone. I didn't delete it. They were getting sloppy, which meant they were getting comfortable. And when people get comfortable, they make mistakes. So I encouraged the comfort. I leaned into it. I acted tired, distracted, too busy to care. I stopped wearing perfume. I stopped checking his phone. I stopped reacting. And the more invisible I became, the more visible they were. He called her kiddo once, then sweetheart, then baby. He said it softly, like it slipped out, but I caught it. I didn't flinch, didn't blink, didn't even look up. Instead, I smiled at my coffee, the one without lipstick this time, because I didn't need evidence anymore. I had momentum. They thought I was a fool, but fools don't build cages out of kindness. I wasn't planning revenge. Not yet. I was planning proof and patience and the perfect moment when silence would be louder than any scream. They started lying worse, like beginners, like teenagers. Adam once said he was working late, but he left his Apple Watch at home. The screen lit up at 9:13 p.m. Thank you for tonight. I missed you already. I stared at it for a full minute, not angry, not surprised, just disappointed. Disappointed that it took him this long to become this obvious. I turned the screen off, placed it back where he left it. I didn't even lock it. Let him think he still had control. That night, I kissed him on the forehead, like I used to, back when I was still in love. He smiled in his sleep. The next morning, I offered to make breakfast for all three of us. Pancakes, Leah's favorite. She looked at me like I'd grown a second head. Adam looked nervous, and I just smiled. The thing about betrayal is, people think the pain makes you weaker, but it doesn't. It makes you sharper, cleaner, colder. I wasn't here to confront. I was here to end it, on my terms. That evening, I asked Leah if she wanted to go shopping. Sister stuff. She hesitated, but said yes. I let her pick the music, told her I missed hanging out. She almost believed me. Almost. Inside the store, I walked to the dressing room with her. She tried on a red dress, twirled in front of the mirror. Looks good? She asked. I smiled. He'll love it. Her face changed, just for a second. Then that fake sister smile returned. Who? She asked. I met her eyes, held them, then tilted my head and said, You know who. She didn't speak, didn't blink, didn't breathe. So I turned, walked out of the fitting room, and left her standing there, in the red dress, in the mirror, with her own reflection. Because the truth, I didn't need to say anything more. She already knew what came next. She didn't come home that night. Leah. She didn't text, didn't call, didn't explain. And Adam? He asked once, just once. Did she say anything to you? He asked while brushing his teeth. I shook my head, sipped my tea, and said, maybe she needed space. He nodded, then rinsed his mouth, like that was enough. But silence is never just silence. It echoes, it rots, it expands in every direction. By the third day, she came back. No suitcase, no smile, no eye contact. Just a whisper. I'm sorry. I didn't ask for what, because I already knew. I watched her avoid his gaze. I watched him avoid mine. And I realized this wasn't love. Not between them. Not anymore, if it ever was. This was guilt and fear and shame that no one wanted to name. I cooked dinner that night, a full one. Roast chicken, garlic potatoes, red wine. We ate in silence. 3 mouths, 3 minds, none of us hungry. When the dishes were done, I stood up, walked to the living room, and turned on the TV. A nature documentary. Calm, predictable. Adam joined me, like nothing was broken, like nothing had shifted. And that's when I told him, quietly, no tears, no drama. I know. He blinked. Didn't ask what, didn't deny, didn't breathe for a full 10 seconds. Then finally, he asked, how long? I turned to him, met his eyes, and said, long enough to understand who you are. That's when Leah walked in and stopped, because she heard it, all of it. I looked at her, then him, then stood up. Keep the house, I said. You both built the mess here. I picked up my bag. Nothing fancy. No big suitcase. Just what I needed. And walked out. Not to punish them. Not to make a scene. But to protect what little of me they hadn't taken. For weeks, I didn't cry. Not because I was strong, but because I was empty. Cleaned out. Like someone had swept my soul and forgot to fill it back up. I stayed at a friend's place, an old college roommate. She didn't ask for details. She just handed me tea and said, stay as long as you need. That first night, I didn't unpack. I just sat on the floor, watching the steam rise from the cup and wondering when I became so quiet. The second night, I blocked his number. The third, I blocked hers. On the fourth night, I finally cried. Not because I missed them, but because I missed me. The version of me before the secrets, before the whispers, before I started measuring my worth and how well I could pretend. Days passed. I walked. I cooked. I took pictures of small things, sunlight on leaves, a crooked coffee cup, my reflection looking less tired than the day before. It wasn't healing, not yet. But it was movement, and movement is life. Sometimes I'd think about them, still together maybe, or maybe torn apart by their own guilt. But I didn't check, didn't stalk, didn't need to. They became background noise, faded ink on a page I had already turned. One morning, I stood in front of a mirror and didn't flinch. I looked at myself, really looked, and for the first time in months, I said, you're still here. Not broken, not whole, but here. And maybe that was enough. The first time I laughed again, it caught me off guard. I was reaching for a carton of milk at the grocery store when a little girl in the next aisle dropped a box of cereal and dramatically yelled, "It's over!" I laughed, out loud, startled myself, startled the mom too. It wasn't a big laugh, Not the kind that fills a room, but it was real, in mine. That night, I journaled about it. Today, I laughed again, I wrote. No explanations, no metaphors, just that. I started doing small things, planting herbs in tiny ceramic pots, buying flowers for myself, cooking meals I actually wanted to eat, not because someone else liked them. And slowly, my apartment began to feel like home, not a halfway house between heartbreak and healing, but a place with windows that knew my breath, pillows that held only my weight, and silence that wasn't punishment but peace. One weekend, my friend invited me on a short trip. Just the two of us. Mountains, cabin, hot cocoa. I said yes, not out of politeness, but because I wanted to go. We hiked, we sat by the fire, we talked about nothing and everything. And one night, she looked at me and said, "You're glowing." I didn't believe her, not at first, but later, when I looked at the photos she took, me by a waterfall, laughing with my eyes closed, I saw it. I was still me, but softer, lighter, more mine. I didn't need a new love story. I wasn't searching for closure. I wasn't chasing revenge. I was just beginning again. And this time, I wasn't starting from scratch. I was starting from strength.